Hello guys, this is part one of me decorating a 3-tier vintage wedding cake. So this middle tier is a 6-inch vanilla sponge with a pistachio filling, and I'm just soaking it in my brown sugar simple syrup. I did actually film me making the simple syrup, so if you want a video on that, let me know and I'll post it. Onto the top tier, which is a 4-inch red velvet sponge with vanilla buttercream, and the bottom tier is the same. It's also red velvet with vanilla buttercream. And then after I've stacked, I like to go around the cake with a serrated knife and just cut off any caramelization. Cut that off so that the sides are nice and straight and clean, and so that no one's getting any dark bits in their slice. And if you're thinking, ew, why does the cake have caramelization? My cake pans are black, so the cake tends to bake a lot darker around the sides. And because it's such a large cake, I like to bake it a lot slower and keep it in the oven for a lot longer, hence the darker sides. But anyway, onto the chocolate ganache. I actually made this batch on live. It was so fun interacting with all of you guys. But yeah, if I'm ever live, make sure to join, because that's where I do a lot of the behind the scenes work. But after I've let my ganache set overnight, I like to whip it back up with my electric whisk, and this just makes it nice and fluffy. And this is what I'm going to be using to crumb coat my cakes and final coat my cakes. I have already posted a tutorial of me making white chocolate ganache on my page, so don't be too sad if you missed the live. But yeah, it's just a 3-to-1 ratio of white chocolate to cream. And now onto the crumb coating. This got very messy very quickly, but don't worry, this is just to trap in all of those crumbs, so it doesn't have to look too pretty. I'm currently working on the bottom tier. So the dimensions of this cake is 8 inches on the bottom, 6 in the middle and 4 on top, and she wants it to feed 80 people. Even though this is like my 4th big wedding cake, it's still such a pinch me moment, like the fact that people are choosing me for such a special day and my cake is going to be the centerpiece of the day. It's just so beautiful. So thank you to all of my beautiful brides and grooms who have chosen me this year, and I can't wait to do so many more wedding cakes. Like, keep it coming, keep them coming. So because I whipped my ganache, I don't know if you can tell, but it's applying so smoothly and so easily to the cake. I've done ganache before where I haven't whipped it and it was just super sticky. So this just mimics a buttercream texture and it's a lot more easier to work with. And with my 4-inch cakes, because it's quite tall and skinny, can you see how it's wobbling? What I like to do is I'll put the cake in the freezer for like 15 minutes before applying the crumb coat, and this just helps solidify it and it's a lot more stable and less wiggly. It will still wiggle, but it wiggles a lot less, you know what I mean? Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Now with ganache, once it's been refrigerated, it tends to expand and it will leave a big fat crack in your cake. Like right here. This was the next day and I noticed 3 big cracks in my bottom tier. But to fix this, I just go over the cracks with a thick layer of royal icing, really pushing it in there so it's like in the crack. And then you want to take your scraper and smooth it out. And royal icing sets really hard, so this will stop the cracks showing up in your final coat. Now, with any tiered cake, you always want to make sure that there's supports in there so that the weight of the cake is supported, duh. So here I'm using some thick plastic dowels, and I use 6 in the bottom tier to support the 6-inch cake, and then I use 4 in the middle tier to support the top cake. You get what I'm trying to say, man. Now onto the final coat. This is still white chocolate ganache, but what I did to get it this bright white is basically, you know when the ganache is still in the liquidy stage, that's when I added in my oil-based food gel. I added white and a teeny tiny bit of purple, and then I let it harden as usual, and then I whipped it back up with my electric whisk as you saw me do earlier, and it left me with this beautifully white, smooth ganache that I'm covering my cakes with. And when I tell you, I was so gassed because you guys know I have struggled with ganache in the past, and this was the smoothest, easiest process I've ever done. Like, just look at that, and it only took a couple of swipes to get it perfectly perfect. I'm so excited to decorate this cake. Make sure you watch part 2 to watch me add all of the piping and the cherries and the frills and the setup. But for now, let me just finish covering these cakes. Jane, calm down. But if you've made it to the end of this video, comment a cake emoji because this was a long one. But I'll see you guys in part 2. Bye, cuties.